රට නගන ජන පවුර.
A very good afternoon. You're watching Lunchtime News on TV1 for the Newsfirst team and Mariam Gunavijaya. We start off with a look at your headlines.
Fitch ratings downgrade Sri Lanka again. China Go Home campaign will be launched if debt restructuring is not done, Rasamanikam says in Parliament.
අපි සියලු දෙනාම ජාති ආගම් භේද වලින් තොරව go home ගෝට කියලා අපි එකතු වුණා වගේ China go home කියලා එකතු වෙනකොට අපි තල්ලු ගන්න එපා කියලා මම කියලා මගේ කතාව අවසන් කරා බොමිසු.
Police uncovers plot to create a rice shortage in the country.
On to your lead story this afternoon. Fitch ratings downgraded Sri Lanka's long-term local currency issuer default rating, that is the IDR, to CC from CCC. Fitch has also affirmed the long-term foreign currency IDR at RD or restricted default.
Just remove the long-term local currency IDR from under criteria observation on which it was placed on the 14th of July 2022, following the publication of updated sovereign rating criteria. Fitch said that Sri Lanka continues to service its local currency debt, but the downgrade of the long-term local currency IDR reflects their view that a local currency debt default is probable, in view of an untenably high domestic interest payment revenue ratio, high interest costs, tight domestic financing conditions and rise in local currency debt (GDP) in the context of high domestic fiscal financing requirements, which authorities forecast at about 8% of GDP in 2022. On external debt restructuring, Fitch said the sovereign remains in default on foreign currency obligations and has initiated a debt restructuring arrangement with official and private external creditors. Fitch downgraded the long-term foreign currency IDR to RD following the expiry of the 30-day grace period on coupon payments that were due on the 18th of April 2022. The full statement by Fitch Ratings is available on www.newsfirst.lk.
State Minister Shehan Semasinghe told an international conference that policymakers are intent on meeting a December deadline to present proposals that might help unlock an international monetary fund bailout. According to Reuters, Sri Lanka aims to restore growth to pre-crisis levels in 2026.
There are some concerns that Sri Lanka may miss the December deadline for, going to the IMF board. Even the central bank governor recently at the post-policy press conference said that, it may get pushed to January. What is the status and, what is likely to be the process for bridge financing if the IMF deal doesn't come through, soon enough? Okay.
We are now speaking with our bilateral creditors officially with the help of our advisors as well as IMF officials to get the financing assurance. So we are looking forward for a positive response from our creditors. Yes, if we miss the December deadline, we will have to go in for January. But all in all, the agreements we had, the staff level agreement, then the prior actions which we had to make to stabilize the economy has been completed from the government's point, and we are looking forward for the December approval. As of now, I would say the economy has stabilized due to different measures the central bank and the Ministry of Finance has taken.
So could you please elaborate a little bit on how the talks with China, India and Japan are progressing in terms of, agreements with them? At what stage are we in that process?
I think the negotiations are going on positively. The engagements are going on positively. We are waiting for a positive response with regards to financial assurance.
In newsmaking headlines this afternoon, TNA parliamentarian Shanakyan Rasamanikam says if China fails to support Sri Lanka's debt restructuring program, a China Go Home campaign will be launched in the country. MP Shanakyan Rajaputhiran Rasamanikam told the Parliament that China, being a $1 trillion economy, should either slash Sri Lanka's debt or support the debt restructuring process if it is actually a friend of the island nation. He said that all MPs must work together towards the betterment of the 22 million Sri Lankans. He warned that just like the people launched a Gota Go Home campaign, a China Go Home campaign will also be launched.
මිලියන 22ක් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ජනතාවගේ අනාගතය වෙනුවෙන් අපි සියලු දෙනාම ජාති ආගම් භේද වලින් තොරව go home ගෝට කියලා අපි එකතු වුණා වගේ චයිනා go home කියලා එකතු වෙනතට අපි තල්ලු ගන්න එපා කියලා මම කියලා මගේ කතාව අවසන් කරා. බොහොම ස්තුතියි.
International Monetary Fund Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva flagged rising inflationary pressures and China's economic slowdown as risks to Asia's economic outlook, calling on policymakers to rebuild their buffers against future shocks.
Asian Development Bank President Masatsugu Asakawa also urged Asia's policymakers to be vigilant on signs of any abrupt capital outflows driven by steady US interest rate hikes. International Monetary Fund Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva warned the outlook was exceptionally uncertain and dominated by risks such as the fallout from Russia's war in Ukraine, global financial tightening and slowdown in China's growth.
Pamphlet distribution programs were held on Thursday in several areas across the country, noting that the people will not get relief from the 2023 budget. Another pamphlet distribution program themed Rise Up Against the 2023 budget was also held in the Kagol city on Thursday. The group demanded the tax burden to be reduced and relief to be provided to the people. The Trade Union Coordination Centre organized the protest. President of the Sri Lanka India Society Kishore Reddy has said that the Indian presidency of G20 is a great opportunity for countries like Sri Lanka that are not represented in the forum.
I think this hasn't probably happened earlier. I think it has happened only for the first time. And India entering into this elite club of G20 and then handling the issues of the world on behalf of all the countries that are also not represented in G20, representing Global South, which is I think includes Sri Lanka as well. And I think as our External Affairs Minister mentioned that we would actually take care of countries that are not being represented. So this actually gives us a very, very good exposure even for Sri Lanka for it to be represented. And moreover, I think it is also a proud moment because people know India for various slums of Dharavi or Taj Mahal, and now they can actually see the rest of India as well, and then the rest of India would be represented in most of the forums of the G20. So, and India, of course, being the superpower in terms of IT infrastructure and software and other things, we could actually showcase those as well, which would actually add up to the image of India.
Sri Lanka police seized a stock of rice that was harvested from the yellow harvest season that were being taken away to produce animal feed. Police say that it uncovered a scheme that was using good rice stocks to produce animal feed in the country with the aim of creating a fake rice shortage.
Approximately 25,000 metric tons of rice was seized in the Minaria town whilst being transported based on a tip-off provided to the Polonnaruwa SSP office. Thereafter, the Consumer Affairs Authority inspected the stock of rice and confirmed that it was the harvest from the recent Yala season. The driver of the lorry transporting the rice and his assistant were arrested.
Deputy Chairman of the All Ceylon Agrarian Federation, Susantha Kumara, claims it is the children of the farming communities that are suffering from malnutrition in the country and not the children of politicians. Speaking at a media press briefing, Susantha Kumara said it is not the children of politicians in Parliament or provincial councils representing the Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa and Ampara districts suffering from malnutrition, but the children of the suffering masses of the country, particularly farming communities. Speaking further, he said most parents are now rendered helpless when their children cry out in hunger or ask them to buy new school equipment or school shoes. He added the woes of the farming communities are compounded as a result of low purchasing prices, especially paddy. He said paddy farmers cannot afford to sell paddy at 95 rupees and purchase rice for consumption at rates close to 230 rupees. Parliamentarian and Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca told Parliament on Friday that the project to dig trenches as a solution to the human-elephant conflict is a failure.
Sarath Fonseca said that a member of parliament from the ruling party from Ampara had proposed for trenches to be dug as a solution to the human-elephant conflict. Fonseca warned that digging up a trench which is 10 feet wide and 10 feet deep could pose a direct threat to the river systems in the country. He added that even though the Department of Wildlife Conservation had not approved the projects on technicalities, a 55-kilometer-long trench has been dug up, and the allegation is that the project is being used to illegally extract soil and sand. His comments were met with strong opposition from the ruling party in the House.
Hey, ඔයගේ කතා ඉවරයි මහත්තයා වාඩි වෙනකො. බම්බුව ඔක්කොම දාන ප්‍රඥා. වෙල් විදානේ. බම්බුව. මෙතනද කිව්වා අකල් කප් එක මෝඩ මාඩේ කියලා. දැන් මේගොල්ලෝ මොනවද මේ අලිය මිනිස් ගැටුම වළක්වන්න මොනවද කරේ? මොනවද කරේ? ඔව්. හරි. කඩවැද්දෝ. එනවද මං කියන එක? දැන් මෙයා මොනවද කරේ ඇමරිකාවේ මේක වළක්වන්න? මුකුත් නැහැ. අලියකල් කපලා ආණ්ඩුවේ සභාවකට විරන් කරන්න තුමන් ඒ අලියකල් කැපුවේ. ඒකෙන් අපේ ගම් ටික ආරක්ෂා වෙනවා.
In the meantime, leader of the National People's Power, Andhra Kumar Dissanayake, voiced concern in Parliament, citing suspicions that the National Elections Commission could also be plotting to delay the local government elections. Leader of the National People's Power, Andhra Kumar Dissanayake, said that new local government bodies must be established before the 20th of March 2023, and in order to keep with the process, nominations need to be called for by the end of December or early January. The parliamentarian said that the respective gazette must be issued by the National Elections Commission, and the NEC is already empowered to declare the elections. He said that the National Elections Commission is directing certain matters for the advice of the Attorney General, however questioned the basis of doing so when the National Elections Commission itself is governed by an established act. He alleged that the National Elections Commission is also involved in a conspiracy to delay the local government elections. He called on the President to declare that the government will not take any decision that would violate the powers of the National Elections Commission that will enable them to call for elections. He also alleged that the chairman of the National Elections Commission is not an independent individual. Enrolling students for intermediate classes for the year 2022 will be halted from next Monday when the third term of schools for this year commences. The Ministry of Education says enrollment of students for intermediate classes for the year 2023 will begin once the third term of schools for the year 2022 ends, which falls on the 24th of March 2023. It adds that steps in this regard will only be taken based on circulars issued by the Ministry of Education. The Ministry also says students from schools that do not offer advanced level subject streams who wish to apply to follow advanced level subjects based on their ordinary level results at schools that do offer A-level subjects must submit their applications to the relevant schools. The national and international screening session on drug rehabilitation and prevention was held on Thursday in Baramulla. The event was organized by Colombo Plan and the Japan International Cooperation Agency.
It has provided a training program for NDDCB regarding the prevention of drug abuse since 2020. With a very generous support from the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare of Japan, as well as the Ministry of Justice of Japan, we have been conducted one physical training program in Japan, as well as the online training program so far. Next February, we will be welcoming another group of officers from Sri Lanka, mainly from NDDCB and other relevant Sri Lankan institutions to Japan, to study the policy and regulations and practices against drug abuse and community-based rehabilitation and collaboration. Rule of law, of course, needless to say, that's a very important concept under free and open Indo-Pacific policy, which was created and initiated by the late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. We believe this particular symposium will be an important opportunity for Sri Lankan officers and practitioners to work on the drug abuse issues. I would like to mention that this year, year 2022, not only are we celebrating the 40th anniversary of JICA establishment in this beautiful country, but also we are celebrating the 70th anniversary of the establishment diplomatic relationship between the two countries.
Children of the Vimalavansha Primary School in Bopiti Akurasa have been suffering from the lack of access to clean drinking water for many years.
Only one well is available at the Vimalavansha Primary School in Bopitia, Akurasa, to obtain water for 570 students that are educated in the school. Parents say that the water in this small well is not sufficient for the students and 32 teachers for a day. Students point out that obtaining water for sanitary facilities is also a problem. The water pipes directing water to the classrooms have also been damaged.
The price of dried areca, locally known as karunka, has reduced drastically, causing an unpleasant situation among farmers.
According to the farmers in Ratnapura district, the price of 1 kilogram of dried areca has been reduced to 700 rupees. Farmers point out that with the current economic crisis, they do not receive sufficient value for the money they spend to cultivate. Farmers point out that they will face serious losses if the situation continues.
Here's a look at more news in brief.
The 75th Royal Philex, organised by the Royal College Philatelic Club, took place in Colombo. The 35th edition of a magazine was launched at the event that will be held until tomorrow. Philex is an exhibition that allows philatelists to showcase their collections. Two young men were arrested by Sri Lanka police while fleeing the scene in a motorbike after stealing a gold chain. Several weapons were seized from the possession of the suspects.
The Sirasa Shakti book donation program, which distributes stationery items including exercise books for school children, continues on Friday. You can now donate books and other stationery items for school children in need around the country to the Echelon Square in Colombo. In some international news, Ukraine revealed that up to 13,000 soldiers were killed since the start of Russia's invasion.
Advisor to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said between 10,000 and 13,000 troops had died since the start of the war. Speaking to domestic media, he said Kyiv was openly talking about the number that had been killed. He went on to state that up to 100,000 Russian soldiers had been killed since the invasion began on the 24th of February, and that a further 100,000 to 150,000 had been wounded or were missing or were unable to return to combat. These statements came after the video address on Wednesday as European Union Commission head Ursula von der Leyen said that 100,000 Ukrainian troops had been killed. However, a spokesperson for the EU Commission later clarified that this was a mistake and the figure referred to those both killed and injured.
Japan, South Korea and the US slapped sanctions on North Korea over missile tests. The latest sanctions target 3 North Korean officials identified as directly involved in Pyongyang's weapon program.
Japan, South Korea and the United States have imposed sanctions on North Korean officials connected to the country's illicit weapons program, with Washington saying Pyongyang's ballistic missiles pose grave threats to the region and the entire world. The U.S. Treasury Department on Thursday named the individuals as John Il-ho, Yu Jin and Kim Soo-jil, all of whom the European Union designated for sanctions in April. The sanctions freeze any United States-based assets of the individuals. The latest sanctions follow a November 18th intercontinental ballistic missile test by North Korea, part of a record-breaking spate of more than 60 missiles launched this year, and amid concerns the country may be about to resume nuclear weapons testing, which has been suspended since 2017. United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the tests threatened global security and that the latest punitive measures underscore our sustained resolve to promote accountability in response to Pyongyang's pace, scale and scope of ballistic missile launches.
Taking a look at the update from the FIFA 2022 World Cup. Germany, a four-time World Cup champion, was eliminated in the group stage on Thursday when Group E finished with a chaotic pair of games. The Germans beat Costa Rica 4-2, but Japan's 2-1 win over Spain meant Japan and Spain made it through, and Germany had failed to reach the knockout stage for the second consecutive World Cup. Group F shook out earlier, and Morocco was the unexpected group winner after a 2-1 victory over Canada. Croatia and Belgium finished in a scoreless draw, which meant Croatia made it through and Belgium was eliminated early. Now, an all-female refereeing team for the first time ever took charge of the men's game in a World Cup as Costa Rica faced Germany in their Group E decider. TV1 for the Newsfirst team and Mariam Ganavijaya. Have yourself a great day.